Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Durag D, and I'm back with another video, man. It's August, and you know what that means. Drafts are happening very, very soon. So let me get you hooked up with our top rankings at each position this week, starting off with the quarterback and the tight end position. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Send this to a friend if you want them to win fantasy this year, just like we've been winning over here with Durag D. So let me not waste any more of your time. Let me get into our number one quarterback, and that is Joshua Allen. Now, the case for Josh Allen is honestly pretty simple. He's been a top 2 QB the last 4 years in points per game. It really doesn't matter who's around him. He did it with Stephon Diggs. He did it without Stephon Diggs. He's done it with a running game, without a running game. I mean, his floor for rushing is just so high that, I mean, he has to be number one. He's going to have 8+ rushing touchdowns, no doubt. He'll probably have 500 or more rushing yards. I mean, he'll throw for a decent amount of yards in mid-20s to 30 touchdowns, even with this lackluster cast that he has around him. So Josh Allen, number one for sure. It doesn't matter how good the Bills are, how good they are on offense. He literally is the whole offense. When they get down to the red zone, he's a threat to rush and a touchdown every single time they get down. And, I mean, they can't win games without him. It's not like their defense can shut people down. It's not like, James Cook or some receiver can take over games, or even at the tight end position. He is the entire offense, and for them to win games, he has to put up 20+ fantasy points. Now, number two, Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar last year had a historic season. I mean, you take into account this man had over 900 rushing yards, but also threw 41 touchdowns. Like, that is absolutely insane. He could easily be number one. I could see the argument, but the consistency of Josh Allen, the threat of the rushing touchdowns, because Lamar, he isn't a big rushing touchdown guy. He's more of a yards guy, which I love rushing yards too, but touchdowns are 6 points, and we'll take all the points we can get. So Josh Allen's slightly ahead, and plus Josh Allen's a more consistent passer, and I don't believe honestly in the Ravens' weapons on the perimeter anyway. So I mean, you could argue better weapons, but like, I don't know. I think Zay Flowers is overrated. Mark Andrews is solid though, and the Ravens are obviously a heavy running team with Derrick Henry. So moving on into number three, I got my guy, my hero, Jaden Daniels, number three. I mean, in his rookie year, he was QB5, averaged over 21 points per game, and I mean, the offense only got better. I mean, they got Deebo Samuel. Say what you want about Deebo Samuel. He's fat, he's old, he's washed. All I know is he'll more than likely be better than the wide receiver 2 that Washington had last year. And that's, I mean, pick a name out of a hat between Noah Brown, Alameda Zaccheaus, De'Ami Brown, whoever stepped up that week. He'll be better than those guys. They bolster the offensive line. They bring in 2 new tackles, Laramie Tunsil, an elite tackle in this league. They bring in Josh Conley, a first-round rookie. So the protection will be better. So it's just hard for me to believe that Jaden Daniels is going to have any type of sophomore slump. Now, I don't know if they'll win as many games, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to strictly fantasy, he's absolutely set up for success. Now, getting into number 4, we got the arch rival, Jalen Hurts. Can't have him any lower than 4. I almost had him 3, to be honest with you. But when I think of his lack of passing yards, his lack of passing production, now he absolutely will rush for 10+ touchdowns on tush pushes alone. Last year, 11 one-yard touchdowns off of tush pushes alone. I think he ended up with 15 rushing touchdowns on the season, and that is extremely, extremely valuable, especially in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. So Jalen Hurts, can't have him any lower than 4. The reason I got him behind JD is because Jaden Daniels, his passing production is probably going to supersede that of Jalen Hurts. And he may not get the touchdowns that Hurts gets, but he will probably get more yards. He ran for almost 900 yards as a rookie. And although that might come down with them drafting a running back and hopefully their back can stay a little healthier, I still believe he'll get, 750 rushing yards. Unlike Hurts will probably be in that 500-600 range, and he'll get all the touch and everything. Now, rounding out our top 5, we got another second-year quarterback. I got him a little higher than people probably do. Bo Nix, man, I don't understand the Bo Nix. I know people got him high, but I got him QB5. I see him taking a huge step this year. Threw 29 touchdowns, which was second all-time for rookies. Without huge weapons on the perimeter outside of Cortland Sutton, they bring in Evan Ingram. They bolstered the rushing attack because although they had one of the better offensive lines, especially rushing grade wise and rush block win rate wise, their rushing game was still very lackluster because of Javonte Williams, Shalil McLaughlin, the guys that they're toting out there. But this year they got, second round rookie RJ Harvey, who's extremely explosive, J.K. Dobbins. As long as he can stay healthy, he's a solid back in this league and he can rush for 900 plus yards. So having that threat, the play action should work better. They should have more deep routes because of it, because, the linebackers and safeties are going to have to respect the run game this year, possibly, hopefully. So I see Bo Nix taking a big step forward. And the big reason I got him over my number 6 guy, and that's Joe Burrow. It's just hard for me to see Joe Burrow in this offense replicating what they just did. I mean, they had a historic season, Joe Burrow, over 40 touchdowns, over 5,000 yards passing. I mean, he had an MVP type season if they could have crept into the playoffs or possibly won their division. But when I think of all the factors that led to them getting all those numbers, they had absolutely no running game. Their defense was absolutely horrible. And even though those two facts are still facts this year, T. Higgins always misses, 4 games every year. He's playing 12 games, and then, a couple games he's iffy, or, he goes out and he plays, and then he comes out, only plays the first half or a quarter or something like that. I mean, it's just really hard to repeat those historic seasons. And obviously Joe Burrow, he's not going to give you much with his rushing. He might give you a couple hundred yards, a rushing touchdown or two. But when I think of the guys I have top 5, Allen, Lamar, Daniels, Hurts, and Nix, I'm thinking of guys that can get you at least, 500 rushing yards, maybe 5 to double-digit rushing touchdowns, and guys that, especially in Allen, Daniels, and Nix and Lamar, those guys, Lamar and Josh Allen could 100% match Burrow on his passing numbers. Lamar specifically touchdowns, but even Daniels and Nix, they may not match him with his passing production, but in fantasy, rushing is more valuable from quarterbacks anyway. So that's why I got Burrow a little lower. I got him 6. And right after Burrow, I got Baker Mayfield, because Baker will give you slightly more than Burrow in the rushing department, but his passing numbers are right there. I mean, he threw for over 40 touchdowns. He was a guy that led a high-octane passing offense, and he's a guy that you could argue the offense got even better. They brought in Emeka Egbuka, Bucky Irvin going into his second year. So this offense should, pick up exactly where it left off, be even better possibly. Jalen McMillan showed flashes last year. He's going into his second year. He'll take a leap. And Chris Godwin's health is up in the air. I do understand that. And Mike Evans is 32 years old, I believe. But as long as he's on the field, he doesn't have a hamstring injury, he will be very effective. And then, like I said, they got great depth with, Jalen McMillan and Emeka Egbuka first-round pick. So they should be just fine, even if they miss guys for a game or 2 here, or maybe even, an extended period of time. So after Baker at 7, I hate to put this guy here, honestly. I really want to put this guy lower, but rushing matters, so I got Kyler Murray. He might be the most inconsistent real-life and fantasy quarterback. He'll show you the highest of highs, and then he'll show you the lowest of lows. Man, he'll go out there and he'll put up 25 points in the first half. You'll think, bro, this dude's about to drop 40. And he'll come out the second half and he'll throw 2 interceptions and he'll fumble and he'll end with like 26 points. And you'll be like, bro, this guy, I can't. But you'll be like, hey, I got 26 points. And then the next week he'll drop 8. And you'll be like, okay, do I even start the guy? He's a guy he has got the highest ceiling but the lowest floor, and he's a risk every week. But that rushing upside, man, he can rush for 600 plus yards. I mean, he hasn't shown us that much ever since that ACL injury, but he's another year removed from that ACL injury. He should be more comfortable, running on the perimeter. And he showed flashes of it this year. So he's obviously one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league. He's got a great deep ball. Hopefully his connection with Marvin Harrison, improves in their second year. Hopefully the ancillary pieces, Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson, those guys can step up. Hopefully Trey McBride can score more than 1 touchdown this year. And, hopefully Kyler Murray can just be more consistent, because he should be top 5. He should be right where Bo Nix is at this point. You've been in the league for so long, and We got rookies out here outperforming you, second-year players outperforming you on a week-to-week basis. Like Kyler Murray is just so frustrating at times. I understand if you got him even lower, to be honest. Now, coming in at number 9, I can't have him any lower. I can't disrespect this man no more. I got Patrick Mahomes. And I understand he hasn't been the same these last few years. But I look at the weapons that he's had. Travis Kelce getting up there. Rashee Rice was a rookie and then a second-year player. And then he got hurt. Xavier Worthy was a rookie. They had a crusty old D-Hop. I mean, they had Marquise Brown missed almost the entire season. They had absolutely no running game. Pacheco, after he broke his leg and came back, was not even a shell of his former self. He was like a ghost of the shell of his former self. He didn't look anything like himself. Kareem Hunt was averaging 3 yards a carry, looked absolutely horrifically bad. And it was just like, it was to the point like Noah Gray became fantasy relevant because no one else could catch the ball. Now, this year, they got Xavier Worthy going into his second year. They drafted Jalen Royals. Hopefully, Rashee Rice, if he does get suspended, it's not a very long suspension. I mean, he's already at training camp and at practice. He's a full go. So health really doesn't sound like a concern at this point. We're just worried about the suspension. But, the law moves slow and everything like that. So hopefully, Travis Kelce, he thought about retirement. He's coming back. Hopefully, he can get back to at least a fraction of his former self. Marquise Brown, they brought him back. He'll be healthier. Hopefully, Isaiah Pacheco can be healthy this year. So hopefully, with the band all back together, Patrick Mahomes can have some passing production because he will give you a solid, few hundred yards rushing, a rushing touchdown here or there. So, if he can get his passing production up there and this offense can be more explosive, easy top 10 quarterback. He should be top 5 as well, just off passing production alone because he's that talented. And moving on to the number 10, just goes to prove how important rushing is. Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a guy we've seen rush for 1,000 yards when he had pretty much no one to throw to outside of DJ Moore, right? So what's the difference between then and now? I mean, he's got Garrett Wilson, and my feelings. I think he'll be top 5 in receiving yards this year. So there's no reason why he can't finish top 10 when you've got a top 10 receiver, and then you've got a running back that people have to respect in the running game, and then you bring a new element to the running game yourself in read options, zone read, RPOs. The linebackers have to respect your running game in that fraction of a second that they hesitate. You can get the edge, man, because you run 4.4. You can outrun a lot of linebackers, a lot of DBs. So Justin Fields, number 10, rushing upside. You got to love it. Coming in at number 11, stop the hate, it's Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott with a full 17 games and a full 17 games of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and no run game. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like the Bengals. And I would not be surprised whatsoever if Dak Prescott finished top 8, top 5, top 4 in points per game this year because their offense should be extremely explosive, especially in the passing game. Like I said, they might not have any running game whatsoever because they got the Broncos and the Panthers scrapped. They picked up Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, drafted Jadon Blue. Who knows how this running game is going to look, but all I know is they're going to have to air it out. Who knows how good the defense will be. They'll be a team that, every chance they get, they'll be throwing the ball. So Dak Prescott, he's got 2, I don't want to say elite receivers. CeeDee Lamb is obviously top 3. Then I think George Pickens could be an elite number 2 in this league. So when Dak's had weapons, he's been top 5 in points per game. So you got to believe in Dak Prescott. And he's going at a huge value right now because he's not even going 11th. He's not even going drafted in a lot of redraft leagues right now. So Dak Prescott, he'll be a waiver wire darling this year if he's not drafted. Next, I got another guy with a lot of weapons. Now, this portion is really pick your flavor, pick your offense, plant your flag. A lot of these guys don't have a lot of rushing upside. They're really pocket passers. So it gets to pick your flavor at this point. And I got, Jared Goff next. Jared Goff, elite weapons. He's got Amon St. Brown. He's got LaPorta. He's got J-Mo. He's got Gibbs and Monty and elite offensive line. And even though Ben Johnson is gone, with all that around him, it's just hard for me to see him outside of the top 12. It really is. He'll be, QB 11, QB 10, just off the fact he'll throw 30-plus touchdowns. He'll throw, high 3,800, 4,000-plus yards. And this offense will likely still be elite. So Jared Goff, number 12. 13, Brock Purdy. I might honestly drop him down a little lower just because now we don't know if Brandon Ayuk, when he's coming back. The health of CMC is always in question. I mean, if there is no Brandon Ayuk, can you trust an offense that's led by either Ricky Pearsall or Jawan Jennings as a wide receiver one? Now, they do have the best tight end in the league in George Kittle, so maybe he can be their wide receiver one. But, Purdy, he's the guy that he'll give you a little bit of rushing here and there. He'll also, this offense could be elite if everyone is healthy. But it's just, it's an offense that has a really easy schedule and should put up a lot of points because, they're beating a lot of teams. And Purdy, he just worries me a little because when he didn't have his weapons last year, he did not look the same. So I might end up dropping Brock Purdy from 13 13 to be honest with you. Next, I got Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams got all the weapons in the world. He's got no excuses. He's got an improved offensive line. He's got Ben Johnson. He's got talent galore all over the place. It's put up or shut up for him. And after this year, if he doesn't perform, I can promise you that bus talks are going to start creeping in to the city of Chicago because he's got all the talent in the world as well. It's just about putting it together. And he should honestly finish much, much higher than this if he's the talent that we thought he was. With all that talent, Ben Johnson had Jared Goff at, finishing as a QB1. So if Caleb can't even be a high-end QB2 at QB14, man, it's tough sledding. I truly believe he can be a QB1. It's just such a crapshoot at this point. Like, it's just a bunch of pocket passers. Now, Caleb could give you a little bit in the rushing department. We did see him run a little bit last year. But, with his weapons, there's no excuse why he can't be a high-end QB2 at the very minimum. Now, rounding out our top 15, we got Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy. Michael Penix, he looked elite in that very last game against the Panthers for sure. He looked great in spurts against my Commanders last year. I saw it firsthand. I saw it live, especially in that fourth quarter where him and Drake London did was absolutely insane. So he's got Drake London. He's got Bijan Robinson. He's got Kyle Pitts. Darnell Mooney, if he can get back healthy, is a solid number 2 in this league. Very underrated. So, I think Michael Penix can go out there and shock a lot of people and be a top 12 quarterback this year. I truly believe that with his weapon. And the fact that they're probably going to have to plant their flag on their offense this year because their defense wasn't great last year. They couldn't get to the passer. They're one of the worst pass rush defenses in the league, which is why they drafted 2 edge rushers in the first round. Now, moving on to J.J. McCarthy. He's kind of in the Caleb Williams boat. He's got talent galore around him. He's got arguably the best receiver in the league. He's got Justin Jefferson. He's got Jordan Addison. If he doesn't get suspended, if JJ himself can stay healthy, I think he's got a hamstring injury right now that's bothering him. TJ Hawkinson, another year removed from that ACL injury, that knee injury that he had was absolutely devastating. And it was late in the year. So now he's got a full year to recover from that. He should look more like himself. The running game should still be the same with Aaron Jones. They brought in Jordan Mason. So there's no reason that if he can't be as good as Sam Darnold, then maybe he wasn't worth the top 10 pick in the NFL draft, I'm going to be honest with you. And he just has Kevin O'Connell as well. So he's got too much around him to fail, to be honest. Like, I just feel like you drop a guy in there with half a bottle of talent, and he can be a top 12 guy, a la Sam Darnold. Now, moving on, we got C.J. Stroud. And, man, it feels kind of disrespectful to have him down this low because everyone knows I love me some Coleridge Bernard Stroud IV. But when I look at the situation around him, Tank Dell might miss the entire season. They drafted 2 rookie receivers. Their offensive line is an absolute shambles. They traded away their best offensive lineman by far, one of the best tackles in the league, Laramie Tunsil, to my Commanders. They traded away Kenyon Green. So it's just like, I don't know who's blocking for this man anymore. And last year they were already one of the worst, especially on the interior. And then you go and you trade away 2 offensive linemen. You draft 2 rookie receivers. Now, Nico Collins is an absolute dog and a monster. Joe Mixon's already hurt, and we don't know when he's going to come back. He might miss all of training camp. I mean, Damian Pierce, Nick Chubb, I don't know, man. This offense got question marks all over it. And I think Stroud is going to be running for his life all year long with that offensive line. I really do. He had a down year last year, mostly because of offensive line play. And Stephon Diggs getting hurt, lack of weapons, Tank Dell underperformed. I think we're just going to have a repeat of last year, honestly, and it might even be worse. Which is why I wouldn't be upset if anyone had him below a guy like Matthew Stafford. Because Matthew Stafford, we know he's got two great weapons, to elite weapons. Puka Nacua is an elite wide receiver in this league. Devontae Adams, at his advanced age, he's still one of the better route runners in this league, especially against man coverage. Now, zone coverage, I don't know about zone, but man coverage, he still separates at an elite level in this league. He's still one of the best route runners. He's got some of the best hands in the league. So I think this offense, when you're adding Kyron Williams in the second round tight end that they drafted, I think this offense could still be one of the top 8, top 10 offenses in the league. And Matthew Stafford could be the beneficiary because we all know Sean McVay is one of the best play callers in the league, and he can, make wine out of water. So, Matthew Stafford's a guy he's kind of broccoli at this point. He's old. We know what we're getting. Absolutely zero in the rushing department, obviously, because he's old as dirt, and he was never a big rusher anyway. But he's a guy that you can rely on in your super flex league as your QB1 if you wait on QB, or in a pinch, bye week injury, you can pick up Matthew Stafford and you can count on him to get you some points for sure and feeling like nothing happened. Next, we got Justin Herbert, and it's kind of crazy having him this low, man. It really is, because a lot of people think he's a top 5 talent at the position. Now, I don't know if I can go there. He's extremely talented, don't get me wrong. He throws a beautiful ball. But when I just look at the situation, Jim Harbaugh just has him in a cage. He's a caged animal just waiting to be unleashed. And the problem is, when he does get unleashed in playoff games, he throws 4 interceptions. And then Jim Harbaugh reins him back in, and this year they said, no, we're going to draft a first-round running back. We're probably going to run the air out of the football this year. Last year, they barely let him throw. I don't even think he threw the ball 500 times in 17 games. And they drafted a first-round running back. Like I said, they brought in Najee Harris, who has this eye injury. We'll see when he's available. But as long as Jim Harbaugh's his coach and they won't let him throw, it's hard to have Justin Herbert any higher. It really is. Moving on into rounding out our top 20, we got Trevor Lawrence. Now, this guy might actually be able to throw, but the problem is we don't know how good he is, because he's just like Kyler Murray, honestly. He's either hurt, he's up, or he's down. Like, it's never consistent with Trevor Lawrence. They've tried to get him a bunch of weapons. They brought in Evan Ingram. They brought in Christian Kirk. They brought in Calvin Ridley. Now they got Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. They brought in De'Ami Brown. They got Bashaw Tootin, Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne. Like, he's had a ton of talent around him his whole career. Now, throughout his rookie year, because Urban Meyer's an absolute clown coach, and he should have never been an NFL coach. But ever since then, he's really had no reason not to perform. And he's just been lackluster in real life and in fantasy. But this year, that could all turn around with Travis Hunter. He's an explosive player. Brian Thomas Jr. taking that next step. I think they got more explosive in the backfield with Bashaw Tootin, Tank Bigsby going into his 3rd year now. Travis Etienne on a prove-it year. So I think this offense, if it's not good this year, I don't think it'll ever be good. I truly believe that. Now, rounding out our top 24, this guy could finish. He probably will finish extremely higher than this because of his rushing, but I just don't know. He's another guy who plays for a coach that has him in a cage, and that's Drake May. Mike Vrabel's not going to let him do too much. He's not going to make him do too much, rather, should I say. They're going to play defense. They're going to try to run the ball and make him not lose games. Make him not do too much. Don't turn the ball over. Don't give the opposition short fields and stuff like that. So Drake May's a guy, he could run for a decent amount of yards this year, but it seems like they don't want him to, obviously. Ramondre Stevenson is under contract. They drafted Travion Henderson in the 2nd round. Antonio Gibson, who I saw in Washington, I tried to tell New England fans he wasn't that guy, but they were trying to tell me, no, we stole him from you. And I was like, yeah, okay. You really stole him from us. They obviously drafted Kyle Williams, and then they brought in Stephon Diggs, and that's on top of Jalen Polk and John Baker the previous year. So it seems like they really want Drake May to get the ball out of his hands and not have to run all over the place like he did last year. Now, next, we got our guy who he should finish much higher than this too. I got my boy Tua Tagovailoa. He's got some elite weapons as well. Devon Achane's one of the best pass catching, if not the best pass catching running back in the NFL. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle is one of the best receiving duos when they're healthy. There's no excuses. I mean, they even brought in Nick Westbrook-Akine, who was catching touchdowns like left and right over the last 8 or so weeks last year. Remember, Nick Westbrook-Akine, dude, was going crazy. So there's really no excuses. He's got one of the best offensive minds in Mike McDaniel. He just needs to put it together. He needs to stay healthy. First of all, we're praying for a healthy season for Tua, a 17-game season from Tua. We need the same from Waddle. We need the same from Tyreek. We need Tyreek to get back to his elite self. You know, he's still fast, obviously. It's just he had a wrist injury last year and off the field things that maybe kept his mind off ball. But, you know, Tua should finish much, much higher than this. And another guy who I got a lot of faith in is Bryce Young. Bryce Young, I got at 23. I'd be fine with him as my QB2 in the Superflex League. I really would. I think he'll have a surprising year this year. They brought in Tedro McMillan, one of the best, if not the best, pure wide receiver prospects in this draft. A big body guy who Bryce Young doesn't even have to be as accurate because he'll win those 50-50 balls more times than not. He's a surprisingly fluid athlete for his size, being 6'4", 6'5". You know, a lot of people comp him to Mike Evans and Drake London. If you tell me this guy's Drake London, then Bryce Young should be much, much higher on this list. I mean, he should be in that Stroud Stafford range. But you know, I look at Bryce Young and he went number 1 overall for a reason. He oozes talent. He's even got some sneaky rushing upside. You know, we've seen him take off for a 20-plus yard gain. And, you know, with guys like Xavier Legette hopefully taking the second step, an underrated rushing game in Chuba Hubbard, I think this offense could sneak up on a lot of people. And playing a 4th-place schedule, they're going to be in games. So he'll be forced to pass because their defense is still god-awful, especially against the run. So I got Bryce Young at 23. There are a lot of guys you could put here, man, there really are. But I got Jordan Love. Jordan Love will be 24 for me. I feel like I have to put him in here because he's talented. He just had a down year. He had the ankle injury in week 1 that kind of lingered over the next few weeks after he came back. And he was more turnover prone than he was his first year starting. And, you know, I just don't know if I believe in the weapons. With Christian Watson down for most of this year with that torn ACL, Jaden Reed not taking that step that we expected him to, Romeo Doubs just being a guy, Dontavian Wicks seemingly taking a step back, and with them bringing in Josh Jacobs and turning into one of the most high-octane rushing offenses in the league, he kind of took a step back. But with them drafting Matthew Golden, although I'm not a Matthew Golden fan, it at least shows me that they're trying to up their passing game. So I do like that. But it's just hard for me to believe that they're going to get back to being an elite passing offense where he's throwing over 30 touchdowns again. Now, that was my top 24 quarterbacks for this year. Now, moving right on into the tight end position, we're not going to waste any time. Number 1, I got Brock Bowers, man. How can you not have Brock Bowers? This man was an absolute monster dog, absolute man-child in his rookie year with Cockapoo at quarterback. And this year, there's no Cockapoo back there. He's got Geno Smith, who may be slightly overrated, but he's a veteran quarterback. He knows how to get his best players the football. He will force-feed his best players the football. And Brock Bowers is by far the best pass-catching option on this team. So it's hard for me to believe that a guy like Brock Bowers is going to have any type of sophomore slump or he's going to take a step back like a Sam Laporta, because his game wasn't predicated on touchdowns like Sam Laporta. He only scored 5 touchdowns. So if he could take a step forward, get 8, 9, 10 touchdowns, this guy could separate himself from the field like we saw Travis Kelce do back in his prime when he was putting up legitimate wide receiver numbers, because Brock Bowers went over 1,000 yards, had over 100 catches. He gets targeted out the wazoo. If this guy can score more touchdowns, he'll be scary. He really will be. Kittle, tight end 2 for me, over McBride, simply because, I mean, Kittle's a better player. He won't get as many targets, but he's much more efficient on his targets. He's one of the highest yards per route run tight ends in the league. He's one of the most efficient tight ends in the league. He doesn't need a bunch of targets, and he will score touchdowns, unlike Trey McBride. And with Ayuk, we have no idea when he's coming back, so more targets for Kittle. CMC's health is always in question. Ricky Pearsall, he's been banged up. He's healthy now, but he's just a second-year player. Jawan Jennings has peaked 100%. So we'll see with Kittle. If he can be their number one target, he'll be scary as well. He'll be putting up Brock Bowers numbers because he does score a touchdown. And next, I got Trey McBride. Trey McBride is a target monster for sure. And in an offense that really only has Marvin Harrison Jr., the separator for me is Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. I think he's a better quarterback than Geno Smith at his highs, but at his lowest, he's definitely worse than both of those guys at their lowest. And I feel like we see more low Kyler Murray than high Kyler Murray. So with Trey McBride, I make the joke that Kyler Murray, he's so short, he can't see downfield. That's why he can't hit Marvin Harrison, and he can only hit Trey McBride on these crossing routes, on these drag routes, because that's all he can see. He can only see Trey McBride over the middle. So maybe Trey McBride can get some touchdowns so he can get into the end zone this year, and he can finish as a top one tight end this year. But I just don't believe in Kyler Murray, so it's hard for me to believe in Trey McBride. Now, moving on to number 4, I got Travis Kelce, man. I see people burying Travis Kelce in their rankings, and it seems a little disrespectful to me because this is a guy who, he didn't have 1,000 yards last year, but this year he's going a lot later than he was last year in drafts, and he's a guy that his projections are almost the exact same. We got Rashee Rice, who we all knew was going to be a target monster, who was going to be great. We got Xavier Worthy. Now he's going into his second year. The run game is still questionable. And Travis Kelce's just a year older. And Patrick Mahomes is still elite. So we'll see, if Rashee Rice gets a suspension. We'll see if Marquise Brown and or Xavier Worthy can take a step forward. But Travis Kelce should still be involved heavily in the red zone. He should be a guy putting up close to double-digit touchdowns. He should be a guy that's still targeted when they need him the most. Now, they might, kind of pace his work throughout the season to keep him fresh for the playoff. But the tight end position is such a crapshoot. He can still finish as a top 4 tight end, even playing part-time, honestly, with how good he and Mahomes' connection is, with how good the offense could be. Mahomes and Kelce. I got Kelce top 4. Now, number 5, I got TJ Hockenson. He's in an offense that should be good again. JJ McCarthy, the safety blanket of every rookie quarterback, which he pretty much is because he missed his entire rookie season, is the tight end. And obviously, TJ Hockenson is their tight end. So there's just a decent amount of mouths to feed in Minnesota. Obviously, JJ, Addison, and the running backs and the ancillary pieces, Jalen Naylor, and guys like that. So, Hawkinson's a guy, if he can get the targets, he will be productive. He should get you, around 700 yards, 7, 8 touchdowns. And at the tight end position, that's good enough for top 5 more than likely. Now, just outside the top 5, I got Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta, I call him Scam Laporta. This dude bamboozled all of us. We thought we were getting steals in the draft. I took him last year in my work league. I got him in a super flex league in like the 5th round. I'm thinking, I got him like after McBride and Pitts. I'm like, this is absolutely nuts. I just stole him. No, he stole me, and he almost stole my chances of winning a championship. So, maybe I'm a little biased against Sam Laporta because he just broke my heart, but he broke a lot of people's heart last year, and I don't see it getting any better because the situation, you could argue, got worse. They still have St. Brown, they still have Gibbs Monty, they still have J-Mo, they still have, their ancillary pieces, with Tim Patrick and other guys, and then they lost their offensive coordinator, and 99% of tight ends need to be schemed open, and with that scheme now going to Chicago, we'll see how much he's involved. Maybe J-Mo takes a step forward because the new coach wants to take more deep shots, which is what we've been hearing in training camp. So, Sam Laporta is a guy, he should be involved in the red zone still. He's a big body. He's a good red zone target, but he may not get the targets he did his rookie year, and he may not get the touchdowns, and that's my fear. Now, moving on into number 7, we got Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is a guy that now, with Isaiah Likely having that foot surgery, he's bumped up my rankings a little bit because Isaiah Likely's been, a thorn in his side. It's like every time we think Mark Andrews is about to have a monster game, boom, Isaiah Likely just out of nowhere comes and steals his thunder. So Mark Andrews, they run a lot of two tight end sets, but they still don't have a lot of weapons on the perimeter. Rashad Bateman is, mostly just a deep threat guy. Zay Flowers is overrated in my opinion. He's not a true wide receiver one in this league. They're obviously a running football team, but he should still be involved in the red zone. Andrews, that is. He still should be one of the top 2 or so targets on this team. And he's one of the better tight end talents in this league. They got him under contract. So, Laporta, and then Andrews, and then I got David Njoku. Now, David Njoku might be a top 5 talent at the position, but the problem is he's got bottom 5 quarterback play, no question about it. Now, he's a guy that might get off to a big start if they're starting Joe Flacco. He might be a guy you can draft for the first, few weeks or so while Joe Flacco's starting. He could be a monster. He could flat out be the tight end one over the first, month or so of the season. Don't be surprised. But once they eventually go to, their quarterback 2, quarterback 3, whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Shadur Sanders, once the quarterback play is a question mark, I'm out. I can't. You know what I mean? It's just he's talented, but we saw him with Deshaun Watson. He was not the same as he was down the stretch with Flacco. So it's hard for me to trust him, honestly, and even this past year, even though it was Jameis is gone and Flacco was back. He was great with Flacco a couple years ago. Just without Flacco, without knowing he's going to start the whole year, it's hard for me to rank Njoku any higher. Now, he's a guy that maybe, you want to take 2 tight ends in Njoku, and then you want to take this next guy like Tyler Warren, who might get off to a slower start, but down the stretch, he might pick up some steam. I wouldn't hate that strategy, going to Njoku and then going Warren, maybe trading off Njoku later when he's a top 3 tight end over the first month of the season with Flacco, and then riding Tyler Warren for the rest of the season. Because he's a guy as well. I don't believe in these weapons. I don't believe they have a true number 1 on the team. I think that Josh Downs is the best receiver on this team. And, I do understand that Michael Pittman was playing with, fractures in his back last year, and he was banged up the entire season. But, that mixed with questionable quarterback play, there are a lot of mouths to feed, even if those are some mediocre mouths. You know what I mean? They don't have a JJ, a Chase, a CeeDee Lamb, a AJ Brown, but they got a bunch of mid guys that, are all on equal playing fields, honestly. They don't have a true one. There is no pecking order. It's really who's got the best matchup. And Warren could, be the cream that rises to the crop in this group. So he's a guy I'm taking where I can, because I could easily see him out producing a lot of the guys in front of him. Now, next we got Evan Ingram. He's in an offense that could take another step, because you guys obviously know how I feel about Bo Nix. And, they had no production at the tight end position last year. And Evan Ingram is a guy, he's been getting crazy targets while he's in Jacksonville. They were using him more like a big slot receiver than a tight end, honestly. So, if Evan Ingram can come in and get targets and be productive in this offense that's begging for someone outside of Cortland Sutton to be a consistent target, I mean, he should be better than guys like Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant, Devon Vele, and Troy Franklin. So, I mean, Evan Ingram could easily be the number 2 target on this team. And if he is consistently, he'll easily be a top 10 tight end, and he should probably be higher in these rankings. Now, moving on to number 11. We got a top 10 pick in this past draft. We got Colston Loveland, another team that has a lot of mouths to feed. But the difference is he's a top 10 pick. So, I mean, they just invested this into him. He's got Ben Johnson, who we obviously saw push up Sam Laporta and make him, the number 1 dynasty tight end, the number 1 tight end in redraft coming in this year. If Colston Loveland is half the talent that Sam Laporta is, and he was, a top 10 pick, obviously Sam Laporta, a second-round pick, he should be a monster eventually. The cream rises to the crop. Obviously, he's in a crowded offense, but with that offensive mind, I think he can absolutely, have it for tight ends. So you got to think, we're for tight ends. He doesn't have to go for 1,000 yards to be the number 11 ranked tight end, which is where I have him. All he needs is, 500 yards, 600 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I think he could definitely do that. So got Colston Loveland at 11. Got Tucker Kraft at 12. Tucker Kraft is another guy who's in a crowded offense, but it's crowded with a bunch of mid. It's crowded with a bunch of guys that are not true one. Jaden Reed did not meet expectations last year at all. Christian Watson tore his ACL late in the season in the playoffs, in fact, and he might miss the entire season. They got Dontavian Wicks, who we thought would take a step and really didn't, barely got targeted most games, even with guys banged up. And then they got Romeo Doubs, he's just a guy. He's Romeo Doubs. He's nice. He's okay. He's fine. He's like a Demario Douglas type. He's just a guy. They draft Matthew Golden in the first round. I'm not a believer. It was kind of a weak wide receiver class to me, but we'll see. I won't, kill the kid before his career even starts. So we'll see with that. But Tucker Kraft can easily be the first or second target on this offense, and he could easily be a top 12 tight end. He could easily be top 6, top 7, honestly. Next, they got Jake Ferguson. Now, Jake Ferguson would be so much higher if they hadn't picked up George Pickens, but they just gave him the big contract. They just extended him. They want him there, obviously. And, I mean, outside of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, there really isn't anyone else. So, before they traded for Pickens, he really would have been higher because it would have been him and CeeDee Lamb. But with Pickens coming in, obviously he's going to take a big chunk of this offense. But I still think there's room for Jake Ferguson, This offense is going to be a pass-happy offense. Obviously, they have absolutely no one to speak of in the running back position. And they're going to be a team that gets into a lot of shootouts. And Jake Ferguson, again, I got this guy ranked as my 13th tight end. He doesn't need 1,000 yards, 850 yards to be a top 13 tight end, a borderline tight end 1. He's a guy that in a pinch you can start. He might be a tight end 1 some weeks, obviously, but he's not a guy I would prefer as my tight end 1. But if you're punting the position, I wouldn't mind it because I think he can give you, tight end 8 production on the season. I really believe that. But, with the range of outcomes with them bringing in George Pickens, I got him at 13. Now, this next guy might be the bane of my existence. He might be the reason I get exposed. And that is Kyle Pitts, man. I'm going to fall for Kyle Pitts until the day I die. Every year I've been on the Kyle Pitts train. I've been giving him excuses. Oh, the injuries. Oh, bad quarterback play. Arthur Smith. I've been just screaming from the rooftops all his excuses. But this year, I love Michael Penix. And it's him, Penix, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and Bijan. That's it. Like, they don't have a bunch of guys. There's not a ton of mouths to feed. So he's a guy, if he's half as talented as we thought he was coming out, because he creates mismatches like no other. He's too fast for linebackers and too big for safeties and corners. There's no reason this guy shouldn't be putting up 800 yards if he's healthy this year, man. He might be the steal of drafts. He's not even getting drafted is the thing. That's why I'm so in on him. His price, he's dirt cheap. You can get him off waivers, man. And he's a guy who can easily be a top 7 tight end this year if he can just put it up together up here. I think it's mental. I really do with Kyle Pitts. Michael Penix throws laser beams. They're raving about him in camp right now. I'm going to fall for Kyle Pitts again. Now, rounding out the top 15, I got Hunter Henry. I got another guy who's in an offense with question marks all over the wide receiver room. It's Stephon Diggs, 31, 32 years old, coming off a torn ACL. It's rookie Kyle Williams. It's a guy who looks like a bust in Jalen Polk. It's a guy who looks like a bust in Javon Baker. And it's Demario Douglas. And then it's Hunter Henry and Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Hunter Henry was the number 3 target on this team behind Diggs and maybe, Kyle Williams or something like that. Like, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. And yeah, this offense might not be hugely explosive, but again, I got this guy as my 15th ranked tight end, and this offense could surprise, and Drake May could take a step forward. And again, the safety blanket for young quarterbacks is the tight end. And last year, he quietly led this team in yards, Hunter Henry did. So don't sleep on Hunter Henry in your tight end premium league. He might be a sleeper for sure. Now, moving on, a guy who broke all of our hearts, including mine. I drafted him in my home link with my high school homies in like the 4th, 5th round, man. And he absolutely, I drafted him and Kyler Murray back to back, go figure. So you know how my season went. I got Dalton Kincaid. I don't know, man. This guy, they're another team that's got a lot of mouths to feed, but a lot of mid-mouth. I love Keon Coleman. I want him to break out so bad. But, I mean, it's Curtis Samuel. It's Keon Coleman. They brought in Josh Palmer. They lost Mac Hollins. But, you know, it's just a bunch of guys. And then it's James Cook. Like, it's just a bunch of guys. So if Dalton Kincaid is worth the first-round pick that they invested into this man, he should be the cream that rises to the crop. And he should be the leading target. He should be that guy. I just don't believe he is, so that's why I got him ranked 16th. And in an offense that loves to run the ball now, with James Cook, Ray Davis going into his second year, and obviously Josh Allen, and Dalton Kincaid not being a huge red zone target, that's really important for tight ends. You know, he's in an elite offense, though, so you can't have him too low. Next up, I got Dallas Goedert. He's another guy in a crowded offense with tons of talent all over the place. But this is another extremely rush-heavy offense. I mean, they run on first, second, third, and literally fourth down because they're running tush push. So Dallas Goedert's a guy, he'll have a week or two where, you know, wow, Dallas Goedert over 100 yards. He had like a 50-yard touchdown, blah, blah, blah. But it'll be hard to ever put him in your lineup because of his consistency or lack thereof. And the fact that this is just a rush-heavy offense and you can't get around that. Now, next is the guy you might not even heard of, and that's Brenton Strange. I got Brenton Strange coming in at my 17th or 18th, ranked tight end in an offense that's very top heavy. You know, they got Brian Thomas, they got Travis Hunter playing who knows how much on offense. This guy could step right in as, you know, he was Evan Ingram's backup. And whenever Ingram went down last year, he stepped in and was solid. You know, he was a guy that you could have put in a pinch, honestly, and he was fine. And that's with Mac Jones. And although, you know, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been great in his career, I could say he's had a better career. He's better than Mac Jones. So, you know, with Brenton Strange and having a full year of Trevor Lawrence going through the training camp as a starter, you know, there's buzz that he's had, you know, nice camp. So Brenton Strange is a guy that you definitely need to be looking out for on the waiver wire after the first couple weeks. Another guy that's just straight up broccoli, he's probably going to finish as a top 12 option, but he won't even be drafted, is Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz, my guy, you know, he'll be broccoli. We call him No Yak Zach because he ain't getting no yak. After the catch, he's going down where he caught the ball. So Zach Ertz, he'll be broccoli. He'll be, you know, tight end 11 this year somehow, some way. He'll be somehow consistent as long as he stays healthy because outside of last year, he was banged up a lot. He's old as dirt. So Zach Ertz is a guy, you know, he'll be a waiver wire pickup. He'll be a bye week guy, you know, a guy that no one wants to draft, but he'll be sneaky solid. And last but not least, coming in at number 20, I got my guy from LSU. I got Mason Taylor, the rookie out there with the Jets, man. They don't have a lot to throw to either. It's Garrett Wilson and crickets, you know. So Mason Taylor could easily be the number 2 target on this team. You know, it's literally Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Josh Reynolds. I don't know. Like, Mason Taylor should be the number 2, number 3 target on his team. I know the offense might not be great, but that's why he's tied in 20. I feel like Justin Fields, even though, you know, he's not a young QB anymore, he still feels young, safety blanket tight end. You know, he had Cole Kmet solid when he was in Chicago. So Mason Taylor's a guy that no one's going to draft. He might be a waiver wire guy. So keep your eyes out on Mason Taylor as well. Those were my top 24 quarterbacks and my top 20 tight ends for the 2025 season. Stay tuned this week because you know we're doing running backs and you know we're doing wide receivers. Those are going to be the juiciest, biggest debates in all of fantasy. So keep it right here on Dudes in Love with Football, the DILF podcast, and I got you covered, and we'll win fantasy this year. I'm your boy, Durag D. Peace.